Hi, this is Anthony. I'm one of the attorneys here at Kershaw Cook and Tally. Thought I'd talk to you today a little bit about an interesting part of the law that I think would apply to a lot of people. It's not necessarily personal injury or catastrophic injury related, but it's something that I thought most people could find useful because many of us have run into this problem before when dealing with debt collectors or creditors. So I don't know if anybody knows this, but when you have a dispute with a creditor, someone who's trying to collect a debt from you, all of us have found ourselves in a position before where we say, wait a minute, I don't owe that much money. That's not the right amount. You're disputing the amount that the creditor is telling you you owe. So when you have a good faith dispute like that, there's actually the California Civil Code, section 1526. It's a section that says it's about accord and satisfaction. So write that down, California Civil Code 1526. You can look it up and read it yourself. And what it does is it provides a mechanism for you to potentially extinguish a debt that you feel you have a good faith dispute over. And what it requires is if you have this creditor trying to collect something from you, and let's say they're trying to collect $2,500, and you're saying, no way, it's $1,000 that I owe. You've looked into it, you believe they're wrong. So what you can do is you can go ahead and send that creditor a letter. And in the letter, you tell them that in no less than 15 days and no more than 90 days, I'm going to send you a check. And I'm going to send you a check that's going to have restrictive language on it. The check is going to say payment in full. And I'm sending you this check because I have a dispute over the amount that you're charging me, and I believe it's wrong. And so you send them this letter, and you send it first class prepaid postage mail to your creditor. And what happens is if the creditor gets that check, so long as you send it at least 15 days later, and they cash that check, then the debt is going to be extinguished for the amount that you in good faith believed was the amount you owed and for the check that you sent them. Now what the law does provide, 1526 though, however, is the creditor can cross out your restrictive language. They can cross out payment in full and then go ahead and deposit the check anyway, and then come after you for the balance. So let's say in that same scenario, a $2,500 debt that you thought only should be $1,000, and you send that letter, and then 15 days later you send the check and they cross it out, and they cash the $1,000. Well, what has happened at that point? Well, what's happened is, first of all, you've paid the amount that you rightfully thought you've owed. So you're not necessarily in a bad position there. You've paid them what you've owed. Now, they could still then come after you for the balance of the $1,500. However, there's another law that was passed by California, and it's in the California Uniform Commercial Code. It's California Uniform Commercial Code 3311. So you can write that one down and read it if you want to. And what that law says is that you have to meet 3 requirements. And I wrote myself some notes here so I don't forget what they are. But what that statute says is if you, in good faith, tender a check to your claimant as full satisfaction of your claim, and the amount of the claim was not liquidated, so it was not a settled claim, and it's subject to a bona fide dispute. You believe, so there has to be a good faith belief that there's a bona fide dispute here over these charges. And then you tender that check to the claimant, and they cash it, even if they cross out that payment in full language, well, it's still going to extinguish the claim. Now, there's a couple of things that they can do. And in other words, oftentimes you get a bill from this creditor or a collection agency. And you look on it, and oftentimes it'll say, if you dispute this, or you dispute the amount that we're charging you, here's where you're supposed to send any correspondence for that. So always look at that, and when you send that letter, when you send the check, send it to that address, because if they've done that and you send it to the wrong place, 3311 won't apply. The other thing they could do is if they think that they've erroneously cashed this check and it amounts to an accord and satisfaction, what they can do is then, within 90 days, they can reissue and reimburse you for that check you sent them. So on that same $2,500 dispute, you send them the $1,000, you send it to the address that they've given you in the notice of collection for disputed claims, and they, even if they crossed it out and they deposit it, and someone looks at it and says, well, we think that might be in accord and satisfaction, they can send it back to you within 90 days. And if they do that, then it doesn't amount to accord and satisfaction. But there's one final section of that law, and that is unless they were on notice a reasonable time before that of the dispute about the bona fide dispute in the language. And that letter that 1526 requires you to send would cover that. So it's just one of those things, this can get confusing, but I suggest if you come across something like that, it's important to you, give me a call, give an attorney a call. They can kind of point out, guide you through the system and how to do it. But it's one of those things that people find themselves in where you've got this big collection agency or this big company that's bearing down on you for this money that you feel is not the amount, it's wrong, and you just feel like, what am I going to do? I'm the little guy here, and I have no recourse. Well, no, the law does provide you in California with some recourse, and it's Civil Code 1526, and it's California Uniform Commercial Code 3311. And by the way, what courts have said is because both of those statutes are in conflict with each other. Surprise, surprise, the legislature wrote two laws that are in conflict with each other. Because 3311 was the more recently enacted law, that's the one the courts say controls. And that's the one that says even if they cross out your payment in full language and deposit it, it's going to count as accord and satisfaction if they were reasonably on notice for that and you met the three requirements of the law. So just a little tip for everyone out there who finds himself in that position. I thought, it was something that I came across in one of my cases recently, and I thought, this is something everybody might want to know about.